and I saw this plane, low-flying plane, and just moseying along at a low speed, and you could literally see the pilot in the damn greenhouse, on the ship, on the plane. And this plane climbs straight up, like it's gonna go away. And then all of a sudden he turns and comes straight down. And you're absolutely flabbergasted that this guy is gonna kill himself.
Welcome to Triumphant Spirit, America's World War II Generation Speaks. This program is a series of broadcasts featuring the stories of a generation that fought and won the Second World War. No matter how they fought the war or where, on the home front or the battlefield, each veteran featured on the program contributed valiantly to a victory that changed the 20th century. Here are their stories in their own words. They are stories of actions and deeds that not only helped shape the outcome of the war, but the very world we live in today. The Battle of Okinawa will go down as the largest naval battle ever fought. It was the battle in which Japan unleashed its punishing suicide weapons, the kamikazes, against the U.S. Navy fleet that was supporting the forces fighting the land battle for the island of Okinawa. 36 ships were sunk, and 4,907 sailors lost their lives. Petty Officer Jerry Raso was a radar man on board the USS Pledge, a minesweeper, during the 81-day battle. He was 18 years old, having joined the Navy right out of high school. When on the USS Pledge in May of 1945, the ship was attacked by a kamikaze that just missed its target by yards. By the war's end, Jerry had experienced not only the Battle of Okinawa, but also the atomic bombings of Japan. He returned home in 1946 to resume life, but with a totally different perspective on what it meant to be an American. Jerry, you were 17 when you entered the service.
Yeah.
What were you doing before the war, and what was life like?
Well, I entered high school in Paterson, New Jersey, which was my birthplace. And in 1940, I was graduated from elementary school and went into the high school. And of course, this was a city high school, 3,500 students, split sessions. It wasn't necessarily it was like taking a little kid and put him in this huge factory. And it was very scary for a young boy, 13 years of age. I can remember distinctly when the Germans invaded Poland. It was in the newspapers, and
tell us about that.
Well, it was. I guess it was 1940, I suppose.
September 1, 1939.
Was it? Well, I can remember sitting in the school auditorium with, of course, the Daily News, the most literate newspaper, and talking about the Germans and Blitzkrieg and all those terms were just being developed at that time. And I realized there was a war going on, but never thinking that we would be in it. And kind of being a history buff even back then, I love to read current events and discuss them, and very much aware of what was going on. I'd been a Boy Scout and marched in the Memorial Day parades and I remember seeing the Civil War veteran sitting in an open convertible, very feeble old man, just waving his hand and to us. And it was quite impressive. And I used to look forward to that. And our schools taught a lot about patriotism in a subtle way, but you loved your flag and you loved everything about your country, and there was no question about it. However, as my wife would say, that I lived in an Italian district, and most of the kids in my school were of Italian extraction, and that was fine. I never felt anything. But then when I got to high school, it was a little different. First of all, I was maturing, and secondly, I became aware that I was from, quote, a minority group. And my father was an immigrant and a naturalized citizen at that time, but I realized that I was different and was...
Because of your heritage.
Yes. And so I began to be sensitive about it. And then, of course, when the war began to rumble and stuff like that, I became aware that that I was not doing my job for my country unless I had to prove myself and to help my immigrant group be recognized as people who cared about their country and were willing to do whatever was necessary.
You served in the Pacific on board a Minesweeper,
Yes.
the USS Pledge.
Yes.
What is a Minesweeper and what is its mission?
Well, first of all, there are three classes of minesweepers. There's the yard minesweeper, which is a wooden hull designed to not attract mines magnetically, because a ship is a big magnet floating on the water. And then there's the fleet minesweeper, which I was on, which is about 200 feet long and 30 feet wide. The ship's complement, wartime complement, was 110 officers and men, 10 of which were officers and 100 of us. We had two types of gear, the minesweeping gear and anti-submarine gear. That is sonar equipment, radar equipment, those types of things to detect submarines. We had all types of depth charge devices, such as K-guns that shoot the ash cans, the
Depth charges
over the side. Then we had the hedgehogs, which were forward on the forecastle, which is the bow of the ship, that would shoot these smaller ones, just like confetti, in front of you, so that you, and of course in the rear they just dumped them off the fantail, so that you could set up a depth charge pattern when you had a detection of a submarine in the vicinity. So
that was a fleet minesweeper?
That was a fleet minesweeper.
All right. What was the third category?
The third category was a destroyer minesweeper. Now these were usually old four-stack destroyers that were nothing more than high-speed ships. And they were from World War I, but very good, fast ships, but old. And as a matter of fact, my cousin was finally, when I was on my way to the Pacific, I went aboard his ship at Pearl Harbor. He was the captain of this destroyer minesweeper, the DMS-7. And so those are the three types. But in describing minesweepers, minesweepers are designed to detect three types of mines. One is the anchored mine, where this big explosive device has a chain and an anchor at the bottom. And they sit at the bottom of the sea, just suspended in the sea, so with large spikes on them, so that if a ship comes by, hits one of those spikes, it blows it up. Those are the anchored minesweepers. Then they have the magnetic mines. And they'll be sitting at the bottom of the sea, and when attracted by this magnetic device, which happens to be the hull of a ship, it would automatically go to it and explode when it hits the hull. Then there's the audio mines. And these are mines that are attracted by noise. The engine, the propellers, will attract these mines. They sit at the bottom of the sea and come up and hit you. And the way we would combat these devices, we would had big arms that would stretch out from the hull of the ship. And they would lower these big sonic vibrating devices, which would be sending out this tremendous sound to prematurely explode the audio minesweeper mines. And then there's the magnetic ones. Our ship was, before we left port, we were what they call degaussing. They stretched electric cables across our hull and would take readings of the relative magnetism of the ship. And we were able to neutralize that magnetism in the pilot house of the ship. There was a big, looked like a huge fuse box with a big dial on it, and you had to set it at a certain position depending on your course. Wherever, at 090, for instance, it would be set at 10. At 020, it would be set at a different number. But every time we changed course, the quartermaster would have to change the reading on the magnetic thing. But the preponderance of the mines that are set are anchor mines. Now, they like those because they set them at certain depths. For instance, an aircraft carrier or a battleship or large war vessel would take 30, 40 feet of water. And they would love to set them just around that thing so that they got a big bang for their buck. They would hit large ships. Now, as I told you, this was an anchor with a chain and a big explosive device like a balloon hanging on top. We, on the other hand, used to sweep those mines by letting in a V formation from our ship 2 large cables. And every 6 feet there was a cable cutter, a jaw sticking out. Now we would go over the mines field, and the jaw, the chain, would hit the chain of the mine. And as it fell into the jaw would automatically snap the chain, and the thing would come up and float on the surface. So that you always had ships in the rear would fire these things with whatever device. I mean, we fired at them with rifles, 50 caliber machine guns, 20 millimeter, and to explode them. And that's the mission of the Minesweeper.
Your vessel, Jerry, was part of the greatest naval battle of all times, and that was the battle for the Pacific island of Okinawa in April of 1945.
April 1st.
Can you describe the battle that took place around you?
Oh, well, first of all, I wasn't there April 1st. I got there around mid-May, toward the end of May. But, and your answer to your question is the Battle of Okinawa was one of the longest island jobs that we had. It lasted 90 days. So it didn't end till the end of June. We were in Guam, and then we were sent up to Saipan, where we rendezvoused with a troop ship with 5,000 Marines aboard, and our mission was to go to take them up there. And we would be one of the ships that was screening the troop ship against enemy subs or aircraft. And we were assigned that. And I left from Saipan, and it was, I guess it was about a 9-day voyage to Okinawa. Now, we left the ship. When we got up close, we weren't to go in with them. We stayed in an area called the picket line, which was a string of ships all around that you had a station where you went, say, 12 miles each way, back and forth, trying to keep enemy aircraft, enemy submarines, or anyone else away from the island so that our guys could do their job without a lot of problems. And
What were your responsibilities?
I was a radarman. Yeah, I had gone to a radar school here in the States and was a radarman. That we didn't, when I think of the kind of radar we had in those days, and I was aboard a Navy guided missile frigate not too long ago, because my nephew was an officer on that ship, and he showed me all the, as a matter of fact, I made a 7-day voyage with it, and they showed me all the new electronic equipment. It was unbelievable. But nevertheless, that was my job.
During the course of this battle, when your ship was there, the Japanese did unleash its famous or infamous kamikaze attacks against the fleet.
Yes.
Can you tell us about one of those attacks?
Well, it's funny because we never got attacked till we were in what eventually became called Buckner Bay, which was named for a Marine general that was killed. We had, there was a sweep mission which we were supposed to go on, and we had some problem with our generators. And there was a typhoon at that point. And we were in close, we pulled right into, meanwhile they had secured the island, supposedly, at least the southern portion. What happened was that somehow a Japanese plane got through.
A kamikaze.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that then. As a matter of fact, none of us knew it. It was right after supper time, and I was on the fantail with a friend of mine from Chicago, and I saw this plane, low-flying plane, and just moseying along at a low speed, and you could literally see the pilot in the damned greenhouse, you know, on the ship, on the plane. And I said to my friend, "Hey, you know, Joe, that damn thing looks like a Jap plane," because we had known all the silhouettes. We had to memorize them all. And I said, one of those damn Marines probably grabbed this plane and are taking it out for a check run, which was stupid. But at that point, that was my first thought. Well, just about that time, somebody threw the general quarters buzzer, and of course, my battle station was on the flying bridge. And so I go racing up, get on my helmet and so on. As I get there, I look, and this plane climbs straight up, like it's going to go away. And then all of a sudden, he turns and comes straight down. And you're absolutely flabbergasted that this guy is going to kill himself. And I think that with the high winds that were prevailing at that point, that somehow that plane just blew up. Well, it seemed like it blew up right next to us, but it probably was a half a mile away. But at sea, the distances are, and this thing just blew right up and disappeared in the sea like as if nothing happened. That was it.
Did you see any kamikazes after that?
None, just one.
So it was just that one action that you were involved in?
Yes.
And one is enough?
Oh, yeah.
One is enough?
Yeah.
After Okinawa, where was your vessel posted and what was its mission?
After Okinawa?
After Okinawa.
Well, we were assigned a convoy going back to Guam, because that was the island command for the Pacific in those days. Admiral Nimitz was there, the war room and everything was there. And so we were told that we were going out, and about that time, we heard on the radio that there was this atomic bomb that was dropped, this secret weapon. Well, of course, we were absolutely elated that they did this. And we kind of hoped that this might be the end of the war, because we were massing great Navy invasion force because when we first got to Okinawa, you see, things were still hot on the island. And we went to a place called Karamaredo, which is about 15-mile channel between that and the main island of Okinawa. And this was in the southwestern area. And we used to get Jap air raids like every day. And any morning you would wake up and you'd see battleships, aircraft carriers being refueled, and there. It was a highly protected area, but they were, the Japs would come at night and drop what they call star bombs, or very highly luminous floating things that would be coming down on you very slowly. Meanwhile, the Japs are up there taking pictures of who's in the harbor, how big is it, getting all those pictures. And as a matter of fact, the captain used to laugh and say, well, smile, guys. You're on candid camera, that thing. And it was like that for, weeks.
Jerry, you used the term hot on the island.
Yeah.
Would you please explain that for our viewers? What did you mean by that?
Well, they were still fighting. You could hear guns. And of course, we used to monitor a circuit. What they did was they picked a spot on Okinawa called Point Bolo. And that was the reference point that all the pilots would use in reference to where they were relative to that position. And each ship would take over that, monitoring the Marine pilots that would come in and strafe and do whatever they had to do. And that was part of our mission as well. Yeah.
Now, where were you when the atomic bomb was dropped?
We were at sea.
You were at sea.
We were at sea.
What was the reaction of the crew? What was your reaction?
Oh, we were happy as clams.
Can you explain why?
Oh, well, we were afraid we were going to get killed. I mean, because after the Okinawa campaign, I figured, this is my young mind. I figured, well, I've done my shot. Let somebody else get their turn, And they said, no. The captain said, we are battle-hardened veterans now. They're going to use us over and again and again. I said, well, they're liable to kill me, for goodness sake, this keeps up, But that was it.
You have in your hand a picture of the other minesweeper on which you served.
Yeah.
If you would, please describe the ship's location when that picture was taken.
Oh, this picture was taken, probably at Guam. Yeah, because
Jerry, if you would turn that around so our camera crew can zero in on it.
Yeah. Oh,
Behind.
yeah. Yeah, that was taken in Guam. And Guam was where we got all our supplies, got our fuel. It was quite an impressive place, although when we first got there, it wasn't very much. There were no docks. You had to, everything was on motor whaleboats and that type of thing. But they had Quonset huts with the supplies. You would go ashore and on a working party, and you go through each one of these little Quonset huts, open at one end, close at the other with a truck, and there'd be a supply officer who would say, all right, you take 2 cases of that, 3 cases of this, and that's how we would be supplied.
Getting back to the question about when you returned to the States, what was the attitude of the American public toward the American?
Yeah, well, see, that point was we were kept overseas because we got all the Japanese mine charts. And our job was to clean out these mines. So that's what we did. And as a consequence, regardless of what your eligibility for discharge was, you were frozen on your ship. Only Minesweeper people were. And I don't know whether you remember, or you're too young, but they had what they call the magic carpet. They took all our aircraft carriers, took all the planes off them, and they would take all the guys who were eligible for discharge and just pack them full and take them to the States. And we watched some of those happen. But nevertheless, so the point I'm trying to make is I didn't get to the States till after it was pretty well, the big thrill was over. I mean, and we were kind of a Johnny-come-latelys, And I'll never forget that the only, you hear about these big welcome home. Well, the only thing that welcomed us to California, which was where Long Beach, California, was a big blimp that said, welcome home. It came across our tip out, and that was it. But most of the guys already were discharged because I was a relatively young guy. Part of your eligibility for discharge was that you would reach a certain age, you had so many battle stars, and so forth. I just had one measly battle star, and that was it, because I was, the war. I wasn't in the Navy that long, but
one measly battle star.
yeah, yep.
Jerry, that certainly is underrating your participation in World War II. After the war, did you ever discuss with anyone your experiences during the war?
Not really.
Why, Jerry?
Well, I thought what I did was relatively unimportant compared to what the other guys did. And I talk to my wife sometimes, but I met her after I came back and went to college, and I met her, as a matter of fact, June 17th, 1951, which will be like tomorrow, 50 years. That's right.
Congratulations.
Yes. And, but when I got home, most of the guys were home. So I just went about my business, and I will always be grateful that I was in the war, and that it changed my life. It changed the way I thought. It gave me an opportunity to get an education, which I didn't think I would ever have. And I took full advantage of it, and has made my life just the happiest it could be.
Jerry, what do you believe the legacy of your generation is? A generation that sacrificed so much during the course of World War II. Mm-hmm. What do you believe your generation's legacy is?
I'd like to hope, as I often say to my children, thank God Grandpa didn't miss the boat to come here, because this is it's emotional.
Then, Jerry, obviously the United States of America represents more to you maybe than to others.
Yeah. No, they've got to know what they've got and be willing to do whatever it takes. And I'm sure that if push came to shove, they'll do it. They got to do it. That's it.